Welcome back, football fans. Fire today, we're diving into Manchester United's struggles in front of goal soccer ball, what's going wrong, and why Ruben Amorim needs to act fast. Plus, exciting news on Brazil's next star, Wesley. Brazil, stay tuned for predictions, betting tips, and all the latest updates. Let's get into it. Golden Ball leading striker tells Man United what is going wrong in their struggle for goals. Gary Lockyer, who is currently the leading goal scorer in this season's FA Cup, has explained where Manchester United's Premier League problems lie at present. Gary Lockyer has his eyes on the FA Cup's Golden Ball and has explained exactly where Manchester United are going wrong this season. The non-league striker, who plies his trade with Ashford United in Kent, is currently on track to snag the Golden Ball, in partnership with Mitre, for the FA Cup's highest scorer. He has 10 goals to his name in this season's competition, putting him firmly in pole position. And while the 32-year-old standard is a far cry from the Premier League, as an avid Manchester United fan, he has given his thoughts on where new boss Ruben Amorim needs to improve. Speaking exclusively to the Manchester Evening News ahead of the FA Cup's fourth round, Lockyer explained, "Yeah, it's been tough this season," adding, "We're obviously going through that transition again. But it is United. I've seen the very highs and now I'm seeing the very lows. But I'm sure a big club like Man United will get back to how want to." On what needs to change to turn the tide at United, Lockyer added, "I'd probably say the new manager coming in, obviously he has his system that he wants to play, like a 3-4-3. I personally don't think that we've got the personnel for that. I think he's trying to implement that with players that possibly can't do it. I think it starts from the top, not necessarily the manager. I probably wouldn't have gotten rid of Erik ten Hag. But the manager's the first one to go, isn't he? I think there are obviously changes." Ronaldo said in his interview that there's a lot more that needs to be done behind the scenes before it starts operating on the pitch. Amorim took over the tough task of turning the tide at United following ten Hag's dismissal in late October. But there is still plenty of work to do at Old Trafford. The Red Devils currently sit 13th in the Premier League, with just 8 wins from 24 games, with questions being raised over a lack of a proven goal scorer. Joshua Zirkzee and Rasmus Højlund both cost vast sums, but neither have had the most successful time of it in front of goal. Zirkzee has achieved just 3 goals from 24 games, while Højlund has struck just twice in 19. Speaking on a lack of a proven presence up top, Lockyer added, "I like both of them really, but like you said, I think we are missing an out-and-out 9. And I think that's a bit of a dying art in today's football, which, like I am myself, I am not a running-in-behind person." Ruben Amorim must change his approach with Manchester United strikers before it's too late. It can't have done the already fragile confidence of Joshua Zirkzee and Rasmus Højlund much good to see a midfielder starting as Manchester United's striker ahead of them last weekend. The Kobbie Mainoo experiment didn't work for United beyond a bright opening 10 minutes. And Zirkzee and Højlund were eventually called on simultaneously. Their introduction didn't change the game. It was another Old Trafford defeat for Ruben Amorim's side. In hindsight, there may have been something in this selection coming the day before deadline day. It was Amorim's last throw of the dice. The modern-day equivalent of Harry Redknapp winding down his window to speak to the TV cameras at the training ground of whatever club he was in charge of. Amorim could have been making a point. "Neither of my strikers is up to the job, so I'm playing a midfielder there. Sort it out by tomorrow." If so, the message didn't get through. United failed with late moves for Christopher Nkunku and Mathys Tel, and they will limp on for the rest of the season with just 4 forwards in the squad. Amad and Alejandro Garnacho seem too valuable as number 10s to be played as number 9s, and it's safe to assume the Mainoo experiment is unlikely to be repeated. So, for the remainder of this season, it is Højlund or Zirkzee for Amorim, starting with Leicester City in the FA Cup on Friday night. So far, it seems Amorim prefers Højlund. The Dane has started 12 games under the Portuguese head coach, and Zirkzee just 6. But there has been rotation. Højlund has completed 90 minutes only 3 times under Amorim and Zirkzee once. Both are out of form at the moment. The Danish striker hasn't scored since December 12th, and Zirkzee last scored on December 19th. You can see why Amorim wanted reinforcements in January. Now, he has to plot a way through the rest of the season with what he has. United's Premier League campaign is essentially already over, but they can still win the FA Cup and, more importantly, given the reward of Champions League football on offer, the Europa League. Amorim somehow has to rebuild the confidence of his strikers. A run of 3 successive clear midweeks should help develop playing patterns and embed more familiarity with the system at Carrington. As Lisandro Martinez said after he scored at Fulham, United weren't playing to their strengths, sending too many long balls for the forwards to fight and scrap for. That is happening because the team doesn't have the patterns or understanding to work the ball forward on the floor. After failing to find a way to progress the ball, the default option is to go long, and it doesn't give Højlund or Xerxes much of a chance. That is something that Amorim has to change on the training pitches, but it might also be time to back one of his 2 strikers and try and play them into form. Manchester United versus Leicester City predictions, odds and betting tips. Man United versus Leicester odds. Find the latest Man United versus Leicester betting odds here. All odds are provided by our recommended football bookmakers and are subject to change. Manchester United versus Leicester City predictions. 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Just as it looked as if Manchester United were getting their act together, a 2-0 home defeat by Crystal Palace last weekend brought them back down to earth with a thud. It was no smash and grab from Palace. The visitors to Old Trafford started both halves slowly, but for the most part they held United at arm's length. Oliver Glasner's team created the better chances too. For Ruben Amorim, it was another setback. Many of United's problems predate the manager, but he did not cover himself in glory last time out. The deployment of Kobbie Mainoo, a central midfielder by trade, up front was baffling. It was not the first time in his tenure that Amorim made a puzzling selection decision that went on to cost his side. Champions League qualification is no longer attainable via the Premier League, with United way down in 13th place after almost 2/3 of the campaign. That only increases the importance of the cup competitions. The Europa League offers a potential path into the Champions League as well as a trophy. The FA Cup is a tournament United won last season under Erik ten Hag. One of the team's most pleasing performances under Amorim came in the 3rd round, as 10-man United held Arsenal to a 1-1 draw at the Emirates Stadium before triumphing on penalties. United showed admirable grit and resilience on that occasion, as they did in a 2-2 draw with Liverpool a few days prior. But when they face teams they would ordinarily expect to beat, United often struggle. The Palace loss was just the latest example of that. With that in mind, nothing should be taken for granted when Leicester City come to town on Friday night. Having said that, United's opponents are in an even worse place than they are right now. Ruud van Nistelrooy was briefly United's interim manager earlier in the campaign, before he replaced Steve Cooper at the King Power Stadium. Things are not going well for the former striker, whose Leicester team have lost 8 of their last 9 Premier League matches, leaving them in an unenviable position in the battle against relegation. Manchester United target Wesley set to be Brazil's next first choice. Vinicius Jr transfer record wanted. Manchester United added 1 wingback in the winter transfer window and are likely to add another in the summer. Patrick Dorgu is an important signing for Manchester United and is considered as a landmark addition for new head coach Ruben Amorim. It is probable Manchester United sign another wingback in 2025 to play on the right, with sporting wonderkid Giovanni Quenda regarded as United's top target heading into the summer. Quenda has been strongly linked to United, but he is not the only option at the position. Ineos are wisely claimed to be lining up a potential alternative. Manchester United want Flamengo star Wesley. Manchester United are being linked to Flamengo whiz-kid Wesley, a player with high potential who the Brazilian side are going to struggle to hold on to. Wesley, 21, has 110 appearances for Flamengo to his name already, and the links have some depth to them. Insight on Manchester United target Wesley. United in Focus spoke Vemo football editor Rogerio Amaral to find out more about the Flamengo star. Amaral explains that Wesley is strong in all facets of the game and has shown considerable improvement under his new manager. He says, Wesley is very strong physically. He is always on the attack and has the energy to return to defense. He also has dribbling as a differentiator. His weak point was defensively, but that changed with the arrival of Felipe Luis. Today, he is the athlete with the most tackles, defensive actions, interceptions and duels won at Flamengo. Wesley is currently keeping former Manchester United right-back Guillermo Varela out of the Flamengo team, and he could soon be representing Brazil. Amorim explains, Wesley, he is a very promising right-back. It is expected that he will already be on the next main Seleção list. Everyone sees in him the potential to be the Brazilian team's starting right-back in a short time. While figures of around £25 million have been floated as being enough to get a deal done, Amorim explains that Flamengo have their sights set on more. As much as Flamengo is a rich team, they will have to make a big sale this season and Wesley's name is the favorite. Flamengo does not intend to sell him for less than €30 million, but wants to take advantage of the interest of more European teams to increase the value. The board's idea is to turn him into the biggest sale in the club's history, succeeding Vinicius Jr. The club's record sale of Flamengo was for €45 million in 2018, and he has been worth every penny for Real Madrid. Amorim adds, Coach Felipe Luis commented that if Wesley has patience and continues to develop, in July he will be able to choose any team in Europe to play for. Ruben Amorim's forward line drew another blank against Crystal Palace, with Manchester United experimenting in attack.